Greetings, dear viewers. This is Tarot Illumination, doing some of my alternative material on my astrology tarot channel. I want to preface this on the understanding that I am trying to, let's say, get back on track again with the YouTube algorithm and be able to post material confidently where I don't get shut down. So December 30th, my shutdowns and strikes and blackouts were removed after a timeout, and now I'm back again, and I'm allowed to monetize and so on, and I'm allowed to broadcast. But, you know, I know they're watching me, and so I have to be very careful with what I record and how I do it and the language that I use. Please bear with me. So tonight, what did I say? It's January 10th. Okay, 2023. Moon is in Virgo, hard square with Mars in Gemini. Communications and healing, and how are we going to do this is awkward. The Sun is around 23, 24 degrees Capricorn, and Pluto is around 27.5 degrees. So it's just a matter of days before the Sun conjoins Pluto in Capricorn, and that's going to trigger some really powerful dynamics here in the United States that will have some form of, let's say, visibility and experience on the global stage. It's probably everything to do with, you know, the new Congress, the Republican House, and McCarthy and speakership and all of that. I want to go through a few things, the stuff that I really like talking about now, and we'll see if we get through this, okay? So now that McCarthy and the Republican House is established, they're getting on with business as much as they can. They have a lot of power, but mostly it's to do with stopping all the horrible stuff that's been going on for the last 2.5 years. They can attempt to legislate and push that through the Senate, but the Senate has to sign off on it, and the Senate is still run by lefties, and then it has to go to the desk of Uncle Joe. So, you know, chances are of certain things getting through are a little bit limited, but they're going to try anyway. Now, in order for McCarthy to be elected, this is probably old news by now already, and I'm just trying to catch up because I had a lot of, let's say, things to take care of that I haven't been able to do the catching up the way I like to do it. But there's a list of concessions that the Speaker of the House had to make in order to retain the vote. I'm going to run through some of them. I've got my stuff here. Okay, I'm just doing my homework. You can do your own research too. A couple of things. Here's one. They're going to institute, the House is going to institute what they call church committees. Okay, it's not because of going to church, it's because of this fellow who introduced these committees decades ago regarding high-powered, in-depth, ruthless investigations into our government, okay, regarding corruption, okay? So the House, with Speaker McCarthy, they actually have subpoena power, so they can start to enact this now. Whether it'll get through Senate, I'm not sure, but they still have the power to enact this. So what they're going to do is they're going to go through they're going to go after all the three-letter, you know, the famous ones. They're going to investigate in ways that are going to be very, very difficult for these bodies. In other words, the federal government as we hear about it, the FBI, the CIA, the NIH, the CDC, the NSA, the DOJ, the IRS, big tech, big media. All of those institutions have been weaponized, and some of them should be completely disbanded. They've been weaponized in order to, basically destroy what we have in America. It's all infected and infiltrated by basically Marxist agendas that try to make it look as though they're working for the American people, but behind closed doors, it's war. It's war against you, the people. And the beautiful thing about the subpoenas is that it gives them the right to impeach. Okay? Take down some of these people for really serious criminal stuff. Again, I have to be careful with language and names and all of that, so I'm trying to be really careful. Another thing that I liked was the single subject funding bill. In other words, you can't have 4,500 page documents that's issued on Friday night and you have to vote on it on Saturday or Monday. No, everything's limited to 55 pages, and they have, 3 days to review each one before any kind of vote or approval can occur. So that's a good checks and balances on the spending of Congress. No more massive multi-trillion-dollar pork spending omnibus bills. That's history. Okay. The next thing is term limits. I'm not sure how that's going to go, because once these politicians get into office, it's so hard to get there that they think, well, maybe I should give myself permission to stay a little bit longer. Let's forget term limits for now. But that's important. It's still on the list, okay? And it's on the list that McCarthy had to sign off in order to get the votes, okay? Another really big one is border reestablishment, all down the Texas border. And some of you know, of course, that Biden was there recently, and it was a heavily staged event, so you couldn't see what's actually going on in El Paso. If you do your own research, you will discover that El Paso is literally it's like Sri Lanka right now. It's chaos. It's just wall-to-wall homeless people and illegal immigrants and partly legal immigrants sitting around with nothing to do, nowhere to go. I've lost count of how many got into the country, but it's millions, okay? And Biden was there trying to make it look like he actually cared. But of course it was all staged, and it was actually very embarrassing because the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, went up to Biden and handed a very short letter basically saying, this is not working. $20 million is needed, and you need to enforce the law, and we need to build the wall. Abbott pushed it right in front of Joe's face. Ha, 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 ha. It was a little awkward. Now, one of the really cool things, this is probably my favorite thing, it's quite scary if you're Speaker McCarthy, but if you are one of us, if you are one of the We the People folks, or if you're one of the other members of the Republican new Congress, this is cool. What's happening now is that there is a single vote. One single Republican congressperson in the House now has the right to put up a single vote of no confidence against the Speaker. That in turn triggers a compulsory vote to see if the vote is valid and worthy or not, whether the Speaker is held in place or not. So that puts McCarthy in a serious chokehold. And Matt Gaetz is the guy who really pushed for this one. It was really, really brutal. You probably saw some of the, bloody knuckles and some of the physical restraints during almost violent outbreaks in Congress that evening when it all happened. So, in other words, it's actually a beautiful thing. Trump has pointed this out on Truth Social, and it's been put out a few other places as well, where instead of having that basically tyrannical dictatorship from the other side, where they all act as one, and whatever Nancy says, they do. and she was basically kind of anointed as a queen. And it's totally different now. It's being flipped totally upside down, where effectively the members have all the power now. The members can hold the speaker accountable. If the speaker, McCarthy, is not doing his job according to the will of we the people, especially the 20 MAGA, Make America Great folks who were essentially holding the speakership in check, especially down at the Freedom Caucus, the group of 6 with Matt Gaetz. They basically forced the situation. And so I think it's kind of cool. I'd be really scared if I was McCarthy, but I think it's really cool that the Congress people themselves now have a lot more power than they ever did before in decades. I think I just mentioned about getting the border reestablished. Anyway, I'm going to move on now. Actually, no, I think I better post this, keep it short and sweet, and then I'll come back and make another one, okay?